something that you taught me was like the 5 things. Like if you have the conversational skills that get better and better, your DM sending will get better. But I think what's important is having those guardrails and knowing how to identify where you're at in the conversation. Like, do you lean in for the kiss after the first drink? Yeah, one way I've helped to mitigate like the need for scripts is just using scripts, not templates, but guides. So something that you already posted the video, so I could probably say this, but something that you taught me was like the 5 things, like the gap and the offer and the need for information, right? Stuff like that. Using that as guardrails for a conversation. But if you just are always being a human, it's more the actual DM setting skill is more of a conversation skill and a trait that you learn. And it's kind of like socializing more than scripting, just because, like you said, scripts are so saturated in general, even with or without that video you posted. Everyone's using the same scripts already. So it doesn't really matter to me. I think if you have the conversational skills that get better and better, your DM sending will get better. But I think what's important is having those guardrails and knowing how to identify where you're at in the conversation. Like if somebody's answering the second question, you're like, sure, book a call. Here's the link. Whoa. Do you lean in for the kiss after the first drink? Like, you know what I mean? So it's like that. So I think knowing how to identify where you're at in a conversation is like almost social awareness. And I know I've been training setters like a lot the last month. We onboarded 5 setters in 2 weeks. And I was just trying to teach them, like, you literally just have to be a human, like going to a bar. And one of the guys I hired is like, well, I actually just became of legal drinking age, so I've never been to a bar. I was like, all right, try to imagine it.
You know how I got my setter back in the day? He was my friend from college. And one day we're having dinner. It's like, yo, like, look at these girls I'm talking to on Tinder, right? So he'd show me his Tinder. The smoothest operator I've ever seen on Tinder, bro. That guy he just closed everyone. I'm like, can you do that, but for business in my account? Yeah. It's like, sure, how does it work, right? Like, it's a lot of social awareness. That is true, which you'd be surprised. A lot of people are actually quite socially competent. It's different than being an introvert. It's actually just not knowing how to react to social interactions. Yeah. It's like rare. Like every time I love this, I don't know if I invented this quote, but I say it to me often. It's just because someone's an entrepreneur, that doesn't mean they're not retarded. So a lot of people are like that. And the few people that are not, you'd think it's common, it's totally not. And those people don't need the scripts. They just kind of, if you tell them kind of how to navigate the combo, they know what to do.
Yeah, well, I think 95% of the competition just doesn't have that social awareness. Like, you often hear this thing where it's like build rapport. And what does build rapport mean to someone who has social awareness and social skills and someone who's just trying to learn some scripts and learn how to make money? Well, you'll see, like, for example, and let's give some practicals, an amateur salesperson or DM setter will build rapport. They'll go in their profile, be like, wow, amazing work with likes and cash. Like, shut up. Right? And then someone that actually knows how to build rapport will look for something that they can specifically relate to, right? They'll go to JK's profile and maybe they relate with volleyball. Maybe they relate with the anime. Maybe they relate with Guatemala. Maybe they're Guatemalan. Like, oh, I'm from Guate. Oh my God. Like, oh, I played volleyball. Like, were you a Lamero or something like that, right? You see how that's much better at building rapport because you're like, oh, I haven't heard that in a while. I actually answered the only cold email I ever answered was the script or the subject line was, and because nobody really knows about this. Nobody really knows this about me on social media because I don't post about it anymore unless you do digging. And they said, Arsenal record broken or something like that. Like, I'm a diehard Arsenal fan. I don't tweet it that much. He put that in the cold email headline. I'm like, whoa, Arsenal. I don't get any Arsenal emails. And I ended up responding and letting them send me the loom pitch. And I ended up not doing it. But you get my point, is 99%
you got farther.
99% of people don't know how to actually build rapport. And I think that's a big takeaway for setting.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. When you posted the Toji GIF, were you like baiting me?
I'm like, damn, it's Toji. No, I think it's just the first one you saw because I've been posting like anime. I guess
no, I saw the Minato one.
Yeah. I just post whatever I'm watching at the time.
All right, good. Toji is. It's an anime we're watching if you're new to the pod.
Yeah.
But if you want to see how we geek out about anime, the last 15 minutes of the last pod, we only talked about anime.
Yeah.
It was great. Best pod ever. But I want to keep going on this train. Takes that you disagree with on the consulting, coaching, marketing world. Do you have a few or should I go?
I could start. I think, actually, I saw this tweet from from Jeremy Moser today, and it was like 99% of people won't succeed with IG shoutouts because they're already not interesting. They already don't have a lifestyle anyone wants, and they already don't have information that people don't need. And I think there was this time where people were very against paid outreach, and paid traffic on Twitter. And I think Twitter is just, and I saw actually your partner Ryan Booth tweet this. He was like, IG shoutouts are okay. Facebook shares are okay. Everything else is okay. What's the problem with retweets? Everyone was like, And I think it's like an infant platform, to be fair. It's like a much younger than the rest of these platforms. But the point I want to make here is that if you don't have an interesting offer, an interesting lifestyle, an interesting background, interesting things to say, there's no amount of paid ads that are going to help you if you can't succeed organically. So I think that's an important note, because I think some people try to you could start with paid and go straight to paid. That's true. But if you don't have a good offer, a good lifestyle, a good brand or anything like that, it won't work. And I think organic is a good litmus test for people to see if that kind of thing is going to work.
Oh, what you said the word interesting. Like, to delve on that, very few people think of themselves as interesting, even though they are. So we've all had this kind of experience where we tell a story, and the thing that we find most interesting about the story is not the one that the audience think is the most interesting about the story sometimes, right? So they'll harp on small details that we didn't even seem relevant, right? So often I find that happens with content. We overestimate what people will find interesting. We think we need big case studies, big events, when in reality it's the small things that people like. They want to know how you set up your Loom and Zapier automations, and they want to know how you come up with hooks. This is why, I think we covered this a few times, but my most popular YouTube video, it's a Loom video of me kidnapped. Like, it looks like a kidnap, bro. Like, I'm in the middle of a dark room, shitty lighting. People like me doing like my Loom stuff. It's because we overestimate what people will find interesting. It can be as simple as just hit and record on what you're already doing. I covered this in the last one too, but I went on a coaching call and only one guy showed up, and we're like, okay, Robert, do you have any questions for me? Or do you want me to just share my screen and work? Like, bro, share your screen. I'm like, I just won. Very productive hour. And at the end, he's like, this was great. Thank you so much. Like, I really enjoyed this coaching call. I'm like, great. I was going to do this anyway. But I'm like, I'm glad you enjoyed this. We overestimate what people find interesting. So everybody's got, I don't want to say everybody, because there are losers exist and you should avoid them. But if you listen to the Lex and Cash podcast, you're a winner. So believe in yourself and just share your work.
I also think, and this is when I'm vetting clients to bring into the birdhouse, like, I don't look at if a brand is interesting to me. I just think, can it be interesting to somebody? So I think part of it is knowing if you're interesting to somebody, or if there's some demographic that you can be interesting to, right? I think you mentioned him a while ago, I wouldn't find that stylist coach interesting. Personal. Would I still take them as a client? Maybe, because I have to see, are they interested by, it's anybody interested? Is there a market for it? And I think one way you can look at that is like looking at competitors, doing like a competitor analysis. You showed me recently, it was like you had a coaching call, and basically the person had this offer that was abysmal. It was terrible. They had no one, who was going to buy this? Nobody. And I'm like, that's what I do essentially for my agency. I look at somebody's offer and I'm like, is anybody going to buy this? If it's really bad, I'll just cancel the call off my account. If it's really bad, like, someone will be in there and be like, I help digital businesses get digital. Like, all right. But if it has legs, like anything, potential, I'll take the call. And then if I'm like, I could do something with this, I'll make an offer. So it kind of goes through those three phases.